So I recently was trying to find a nice audiobook to listen to, and I found what was number 6 in the series by Caroline Graham of the Midsomer Murder books. I think it is called Midsomer Murders, the series. But yeah, I just recently I just found them, and I don't think I even knew they were based off of books. So, that was very surprising, especially when it started and there's this nice prologue, by the guy who played Detective Tom Barnaby in the TV show. And I was like, oh, what? Why is it Midsomer Murders? So I went back and I found the first one. I listened to that one first. But yeah, so Midsomer Murders obviously was a UK TV show. The episodes, I looked them up, they went from 89 minutes to 120 minutes. So they were long, they were kind of movie length episodes. And I don't know, for some reason I just always liked them. I think the absurdity of a lot of the murders and the it was almost like reality TV but with murder. Like Traitors, really. And so yeah, for me as a kid, whenever it was on, I would just kind of sit and watch it. But that was also a good thing. You can watch the start, then watch the end. And a lot of the time you could also figure it out, so it kind of engaged you. But I never knew they were books, so it was quite surprising when, I found the book. But yeah, so this is, the first one's called The Killings at Badger's Drift. So, Badger's Drift is a small town, don't know where. They go back and forth from, I don't ever know. Again, because I listened to it, I don't have all the details of the places, but probably central England. Didn't seem to be too far away from anything. But yeah, we follow Tom Barnaby, he's the detective, and Sergeant Troy, who's a bit of a dick, as they investigate this death of an elderly woman. I'm trying to think of... Yeah. I think the reason why they start investigating it is because her friend, the woman who dies, friends, calls them and tries to be like, hey, I really don't think she died. I don't think she died of natural causes. And she has her reasons. Turns out to be correct. And thus, the investigation begins. But yeah, so the version I listened to had this really nice prologue, that was written by it may be spoken, I don't know, by John Nettles, who starred as Tom Barnaby in the TV adaptation. And it kind of made me be like, oh yes, I do enjoy reading books, and this is why I did it. I think I really liked the part. So he has a line, I'll just read it. I really like the line about how TV shows can never be as special as books, because when reading a book, the characters become your own. Your own, and also relate to who you are as a person. It's that is true. When you read a book, you find the things that you relate to a person in. And yeah, it's kind of if you think about any adaptations, for the readers of the books, they kind of can fall very flat. And it'll be for all these different reasons. It might be as mundane as how they look, but for a lot of them it'll be because they don't feel like the character that they read. They don't feel like the character that they got to learn and know about in your mind. Because when you read a book, you're with it for a lot longer than a movie or TV show. A TV show is a little different, but like a lot of still it's not as, it's like not the same. You can't explore as many things as you can, or it's just like the written versus a visual format of media. You take it in and you consume it and you sit with things very differently. So I think I really liked it, and it kind of made me want to listen to the book, especially because as someone who had watched the TV show, and I like vaguely remembered them, I was just kind of like curious to see like who these characters were again. Yeah. So yeah, the story begins with Miss Simpson. So Miss Simpson's unfortunately the person who dies, and she is an elderly spinster, in her 80s, and she stumbles upon this scene in the woods. So her and her friend Miss Bellringer do this competition every 10 years. They've done it since they were, well, in their teenagers, when they found this orchid. This orchid that only blooms every 10 years, and they will have this competition where they go out in the woods and they try to find it, and they put their little flag there, and then they like come home and they will make this like grand high tea for the person who lost. And so it was orchid time, and so Miss Simpson was out looking for the orchid. She finds it, and then she hears these sounds, and she's like, oh no, someone in trouble. No, spoiler alert, it's people having sex. And so she witnesses something that was very shocking. Very, very, very shocking. And you're like, what's shocking about sex? But anyway, she sees that, goes home, doesn't tell Miss Bellringer about the orchid, calls this hotline, calls the Good Samaritans, and asks to speak to one of them, which is, Good Samaritans is, a confidential hotline, kind of like confession, but at home, through the phone, and we're not priests. There's similar vibes of like people will ring it if they just need someone to talk to, and so she rang it because she felt like she couldn't say what she saw to anyone she knew, but she knew the Good Samaritans could tell no one, so that's why she rang them. She wanted it to be very confidential. And then she's calling them, she hears a knock on her door, and she goes, oh, if I don't call you back, something's happened to me. I don't know if she actually says that, but she should have. And she goes, answer the door, and then next morning, she's unfortunately passed away. So, I don't know. I think maybe Barnaby and Troy were just called out to it, just to see the body, check it out, and like see the circumstances, and then from there Miss Bellringer confronts them and goes, hey, like, I really don't think my friend died of natural causes. And they're like, why? And she's like, well, we do this competition, and I saw she found the orchid yesterday. So Miss Bellringer later in the day had gone for a walk and found Miss Simpson's flag. I was like, oh, well, why didn't she tell me that she'd found the flag? Like, we would have been having our, like, she would have been boasting about what she was going to make me in her high tea. Like, why didn't she have the flag? And then there's also, they thought she had died of hemlock poisoning. And she was like, she's lived here her whole life. Why wouldn't, like, there's a whole field of hemlock at the back of her property. Why would you suddenly make this thing out of hemlock? Like, that makes no sense. Because, yeah, they were like, oh, she may have been senile and thought the hemlock was parsley. She was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, she's lived here her whole life. She's never picked from that thing. Which, yeah, it doesn't. So there's enough. There's, like, enough little things. Oh, and then also it was her, she supposedly died of bronchitis or something related to bronchitis, but then there was, like, too many, like, bruises or something, and her chest was, like, too full. Like, it could have been bronchitis, but they're like, that's a little too chesty. And so, oh, and there was also one washed cup and one unwashed cup, so someone was there as well. So it's just little things that Barnaby was like, okay, isn't quite adding up. I'll just start asking around a little bit, which is kind of how he works. He just starts asking around a little bit. He doesn't jump in right away. He doesn't do things. He just, like, casually goes, gets to know the town, the people, and yeah. So, which I think, yeah, that was always, like, the appeal to me of, like, you kind of, throughout the episode of the show, like, you would get to know the townspeople, and I realised in the book that you get to know them because you, like, get a bunch of their different perspectives and whatnot. Caroline definitely does a great job at, managing to really set the scene, build the community, show the dynamics of the community in terms of, like, the power dynamics, the race dynamics, the class dynamics as well, and who liked who and who didn't like who and why and whatnot. And it also means, like, the way it unfolds, I don't know if it's entirely solvable, but it's definitely guessable, like, what happened. But even then, it's, like, kind of fun to just, like, have it be revealed to you. So this is a book from the 80s, so obviously there's some things that are a little, I think they say the R word, maybe. I don't know. I may have made that up. But yeah, little things like that. It's just a little bit different culturally, but it's not as bad as it could have been. Definitely could have been worse. The pros is third person omnipresent, which is a new term that I found out, I think, about a month ago. And I was like, I don't think I've ever read a book in that prose before. That sounds awful. Turns out I've listened to one. I listened to one now. And I think for me, probably listening to it was a lot better, especially as, like, the first one. Because the voice actress was great and she did all the different voices. And so you kind of knew when it switched. You weren't, like, sitting there confused because the voice would change. And you always knew when it was going to change. Like, it was prefaced a little bit. You would either be with one character, then meet another character, and then you'd probably change to that other character's point of view. And I think also you kind of were getting something from everything. So if it felt like you had gotten some piece of information, then you're probably going to switch to a different character. So you could kind of expect it a little bit, which definitely helped the legibility of the book. And I think the way it's used just allows for you to meet the community. If it wasn't, it would just all be through Barnaby and Troy interviewing people, and that would get old very quickly because it would just be all these conversations, whereas this would allow you to travel around into the different people, into their houses, and like into their lives rather than just the part that they were showing to the police. So I think that was Like, it was good. I actually enjoyed it. It was kind of funny when I realized that. I was like, oh, I really thought I would hate this. But I think as an audiobook, it really, like, yeah, it kind of added to it, because, yeah, it meant you could meet the community, and that's such a big part of Midsomer Murders, is that it's in these little communities. So, spoiler ahead. I don't think I ever mentioned them at the start, but the murderers, the murderers are Michael and Charlotte Lacey, who are in an incestuous relationship. So that is how the sex is shocking. And they are brother and sister. They've, in their defense, gone through a lot of things in their lives. Like, their father's very abusive. Their mother died somehow. And it's kind of implied that, like, the only people they could really rely on was each other. And so they started only relying on each other, and then as they were growing up, explored other facets of that. But yeah, so then they murdered Miss Simpson because she caught them having sex in the woods. And then they murdered Miss Rainbard. I kind of forgot to mention that. There's like 3 murders? Yeah, I think 3 murders that happen, which is another thing of Midsomer Murders. It ends up being a lot of deaths. But they went on to murder Miss Rainbird because she was going to, who caught them in the act of killing Miss Simpson, and then I think also knew they were in a relationship, so she was trying to blackmail them. And they couldn't have that because Charlotte was about to marry this guy who was going to give them their fortune, so then they could leave him, ditch him. Then, yeah, I think someone else committed suicide because she felt guilty about this murder that she thought she committed, which was actually Charlotte who did it. So that's another one for them. And yeah, I kind of enjoyed the little reveal, even the Rainbirds being blackmailers. It makes sense because everyone was they don't work at all. All she does is sit at home all day and watch everyone. And then you're oh, okay, but how are they surviving? And then you go, oh, they survive off blackmailing people because all she does all day is sit and watch people. And so she knew all of their dirt. I think the one thing that I wish was that the reveal wasn't just at the end over lunch with Miss Bellringer. I know in the show when they did the reveal they would probably show a visual flashback and of what happened and everything. Obviously in the book that would happen, but it's a bit faster. It's a bit less the pace of it changes a little bit, and so it kind of just felt like a lot of info dump, because there's this whole thing about they go to the beach because Barnaby wants to ask their what's it called, Michael and Charlotte's old nanny a question, and then she calls them and then they commit suicide. Again, there's a lot of death. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the main thing, but I think that's just kind of how the reveals will happen. And it is again how they happen in the show. And so yeah, it's like it's just not my favourite, but I think I enjoy the rest of it enough. I might try to read one of the other ones, and then listen to some as well, just because I feel like it'd be fun to see if I enjoy it as much. I definitely won't, so maybe I won't read it. Maybe I'll just listen. I think it would be hard for me to do all the voices in my head, so yeah, but I'll try. That could be fun. But yeah, I feel like especially for just like not fun, but like a little, like, what's a crime book? I was gonna say thriller, but it's not a thriller because they're never gonna die. So yeah, I think for like a crime book that's just fun, or like a little silly, I think these are definitely great, and definitely want to read and listen to more of them. I think it was kind of wild when you think that this one book, which was, I don't know, probably less than 400 pages, was the whole first episode of the show. It's like it was a pilot episode. And that show went for like years. And it's like they had to make up so many more like stories. There's only 6 books. And I was like, wow, they really did a lot of work in terms of making up stories and stuff, and it's probably why they got maybe a little bit more sillier. But yeah, it's funny to think about now how if you adapted it, this would be like a 8-part series, like the Thursday Murder Club, right? Or a movie, like an actual full-length movie. I just realised that's a movie. Whoops. But I feel like this would work better in like a 6-part series, where you follow like, because you get like, then you would get to explore the different people and you could see them, and you could have different episodes focused on the different households and whatnot. Like there's enough in here to make a whole TV series, and this was just one episode, which kind of just shows you how much they put in to those episodes, but also, yeah, like they definitely cut a lot of stuff as well. But yeah, anyway, that was 90 to 110. Anyway, that was The Killings at Badger's Drift, by Caroline Graham. Yeah, which was the Midsomer Murder books. So yeah. Anyway, bye bye.